Hey everyone. One of the things that's fun being a GM is world building and stuff like that. And one of the parts of world building is creating monsters and building them and making them come alive in your world, something that's different that the players have never seen before. In Savage Worlds, it's a little easier.
It's a savage world, strange as a weird war. It's a savage world, classics to
Hey everyone, it's Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. We'd love your support. We really would, because we'd want to buy more Savage World stuff, and that's how we're going to do it. Also, we have a new podcast, maybe not so new anymore when you watch this, but it's Mastering the RPG. General advice, all that good kind of stuff like that. And of course, I've got a couple of products up on the Adventures Guild, and you can look at those too. So anyway, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about creating monsters in Savage Worlds. Now, it's not necessarily that much different than other games, but this will be more because the mechanics. We'll talk about the mechanics. So, number one rule whenever you're creating a monster in Savage Worlds is steal and tweak. I don't know if that's the right way of saying that, but when I first started playing Savage Worlds, the book's only that thick, right? It's not that big, and it doesn't have a full monster manual. Now they do with Pathfinder, but at the time they didn't. You had a very limited set of monsters that came in the book. So it was really important that anything you were doing, you were going to steal something there, look at something that's close to what you want to do, and then you're going to tweak it. You're going to modify it to represent the creature or the monster that you really want. And so one of the things, as an example, is I was playing or creating a game where the players were gods that were kind of, what's the term I'm looking for, merging. They were learning about their godly powers, and it was in a cyberpunk setting, so high technology and stuff like that. And here comes these gods that have this ancient feel. And part of what I wanted to do was bring in creatures from mythology back when gods were real before they disappeared, and now they're returning. And one of the things I thought would be really cool, because one of the players wanted to have kind of this English background or whatever, and one of the things that I wanted to do then is take some Irish, Gaelic folklore, and I wanted to bring in the Banshee. Now, the Banshee is in the Pathfinder book, so you could just go use that, tweak it as you want. But let's talk about if what's not really there. If it's not there because you're using the core book or you want something different and unique. So the first thing I did was I started with the creature, like I said, that was close. And understanding what a Banshee's about is kind of important for that. What is the core thing that makes a Banshee a Banshee? And then that allows you to start looking for creatures that kind of map that technique or whatever. And so one of the things, the key ideas of them is they have the scream, which is the harbinger of death. In my case, I wanted the scream to do some kind of damage or affect the players in some way. Normally look like a woman, young, could be old, doesn't matter, but most likely a spirit. Sometimes they talked about it being a fairy, but I was going to have it be essentially a spirit. So when you think of spirit, you think about, these otherworldly things. They also talked about how, in some of the legends, how they were somewhat incorporeal and difficult to interact with, except for when, they screamed and caused your world to change because somebody you know and love is probably going to die. So what did I want to start with? I went through the book. There's some choices there, right? Things that you could go after, but the obvious choice, right, to start with was the ghost. And the ghost stats and skills appeared pretty close to what I was looking for. And so I chose that. One of the things that the ghost really didn't represent what I wanted is this creature is, they talked about it being one of the most horrifying things you can run into. So I thought of it being super tough. The ghosts have a toughness that's only like 5. And so I bumped that up. And so again, I took something that I had and I thought about what this creature would really be like, and I bumped it up and made a change. What's one of the things that's obviously missing from a ghost is the scream. So how am I going to handle the scream? Number 2. This comes to number 2, which is just define what makes sense. I think sometimes people get wrapped around the wheel of things like, let's talk about character creation. They get wrapped around the wheel of when I'm having an NPC, I have to go through the building, first novice, go past that, go on, and then use that as my basis for this NPC. I don't believe in any of that. An NPC, for example, you just give them what they need to have. Whether it's an edge or not, it doesn't matter because, again, this character has something about them. So let's talk about our Banshee. We can go and start with the creature design in either Pathfinder if you want, because that's got a lot of creatures in it now, which we didn't have before, or the core book. Both have kind of monster creation that talk about the different monstrous abilities that you might be able to use and pull in. And that's where you'd see things like incorporeal, undead, natural claws, natural weapons, stuff like that helps you build that out. And the cool thing is this kind of adds balance if you're worried about that, and I don't worry a lot about balance, so I don't know. So my Banshee, what were we missing? We were missing this scream that would affect a player in a negative way, and I was trying to think of what that negative way would be. Ghost doesn't have it. The creature designer doesn't really have something aligned with that, at least in the core book. But then looking at Pathfinder and trying to understand what might make sense is there's the energy drain monstrous capability, which piqued my interest. I said, maybe that's the right thing to do. And what that does is energy drain, it removes a point of an attribute on a failed vigor roll. Well, okay. That's cool, but how would an attribute work with my Banshee? And that's not what I wanted, really. I didn't want to drain the attributes, but the energy drain as a concept, as using vigor against something that's going to cause a negative to the player, and honestly, losing a die type is a pretty big impact. So what did I want to do? It's a harbinger of death. It calls people. It frightens them. So obviously it's going to have a fear aura. We can pull that from the ghost. We can pull that from whether it's the one in Pathfinder or the one in Suede. So now we got the scream. We got kind of this concept. I like that energy drain, but what's it really going to do? And so what I thought was, again, what do I want it to do? It doesn't matter whether there's a monstrous ability. I thought, what I wanted to do was cause fatigue. So being hit with this power fatigues you. Now remember, after the third fatigue, you are incapacitated. And then that would provide an opportunity for this creature to, do whatever foul things it is, drag you to the pits of hell or whatever it is. But who knows, right? Because nobody survived. If you don't get away fast enough, no one survives the Banshee, and you don't know what happens. But the key thing is, now I've got this concept. I leveraged kind of thinking about what it was, but in the end, I just said, I'm going to do what I want. And that's important. So we find something, we tweak it, but that's not the end all be all. Just define what you want it to do. Same, like I said, same thing for like bosses who are more like humans. Don't go through and figure out all the edges because they're going to be, we're calling them a veteran rank, and just pick what they're good at and what they're going to do, whether there's an edge for it or not. If you want this thing to be able to burrow instantaneously at full movement rate, you can go look and see if burrow represents it, or you can say, forget it, this is what they do. And let's be honest, right? That's kind of what Dungeons and Dragons does, to be honest, right? If you go in the monster manual, there's a whole industry around designing monsters. And I don't think people spend a lot of time thinking about, well, does this follow a specific kind of core building block rules? No, they're just coming up with stuff. And then they drive the monster rating or the CR based on all the stuff they gave and kind of what it's worth. And now they've got a CR. And half the times they're wrong. But why can't we do the same thing in Savage Worlds? Especially since we don't need CRs because balance doesn't matter. We have to play smart when we're playing Savage Worlds. We got exploding dice, so you could take out something big, something small could take you out. So you have to play smart. So balance with exploding dice is hard to do anyway. So kind of in conclusion, building monsters is really a simple process, simpler than you think. We find something we like that makes sense, that's close to what we're trying to do. maybe missing like, a special ability or an edge. But we grab that because it gives us this baseline for skills and attributes and things. And then we add to that as we need to. And then finally, just do what makes sense. If the monstrous ability does exactly what you need it to, that's in the book, and you're going to add that in, great. If it doesn't and there needs to be a tweak to it, just tweak it. It doesn't have to be an edge. It doesn't have to be something defined. It can be something that just comes from your heart. The only thing to worry about is if you want it to kind of be balanced, and you don't want to overpower, special ability is to have a toughness of 37, right? You think about that too, about the players you're going against, though. But against, I'll say it again, balance is difficult to do. Really shouldn't worry a heck of a lot about it. Just remember that exploding dice kind of modifies the world. Well, anyway, I'm Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. Really would appreciate your support. Check out Mastering the RPG. Check out swag stuff, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Strange as a wind war, it's a savage world. Classics to explore, it's a savage world.